Hey guys, Darren Collier, coach of Wiser Sports, and welcome back to another episode of Team Review, heading out of round 11, which is now meaning we are entering the bye round. So thank God that has finally happened. It's been a long lead up to the byes, uh, but more thankfully for my team, I definitely need it to see if I can move up some ranks. But how did I go on round 11? I did pretty good, probably a bit better than most people, with a 23.86 with a round rank of 2,698. So yeah, it was good to see a decent score from my team after a few poorer weeks, which made me jump up about 3,000 ranks. So moving in the right direction at least. But it was a weird and wild weekend, realistically. There was some pretty massive scores, which we saw pretty early on in the week. But then there was also quite a few low scores from a few popular players as well, which was pretty disappointing. A few injury concerns that we need to address. So a few plans have gone straight out of the window, which is always bound to happen when you're trying to plan for your buys. But we just got to adapt, and then we can also, obviously make some different trades this week. So we'll get into that very shortly. But I guess quickly we'll go through some plus threes, negative threes. So my plus three this week has to go to Ned Long. 132 was very unexpected, but very pleasantly received. That 132 is amazing to see, especially because I was getting concerned that he was potentially one that needed to go. But now he seems like he's probably one that I can hold through until he's bye now. So that allows me to make a few different trades and make a few adjustments here and there. So yeah, I'm glad to see him putting up that big score and has dropped his break even again lower, and he's generating some cash. So yeah, happy to see him going well. My negative three, it can probably go to a couple of players, but I think I'm mostly disappointed in the likes of Harry Sheezel. And it's probably not even Harry Sheezel's fault. It's realistically Clarkston's fault for, again, throwing him forward after only 2 weeks of him spending it at halfback. So that's disappointing to see. 81 was definitely not what I was expecting, but also wasn't expecting anything amazing against the likes of Collingwood, who is one of the hardest teams to score against so far. This year, with 20 disposals and 8 marks there, it's actually a pretty decent stat line. Just no tackles in that half forward role. Barely played any midfield. I think it was like 2 CBAs. Didn't take any kick ins. Didn't spend a huge amount of time at halfback either. So I'm disappointed in the score, but I'm also not that concerned. Like, if this is his floor score, then that's absolutely fine. I expect he'll bounce back. He's got West Coast straight after his bye, so he's not one that I'm considering trading at all, even with this role shift. I think it's really going to depend week in, week out, whether he's halfback or half forward or in the midfield. So I still think he's going to be top six. Obviously, there is concerns whether he's going to be part of that or not. But I just think I played around with this sort of switch last year where I traded at Harry Sheezel to the likes of Luke Ryan, and that didn't pay off in the end. Harry Sheezel was still decent enough that he was part of the top six, and Luke Ryan wasn't as good as what I expected him to be. So I don't think I'm playing in these sort of fields at this stage. In a team that's in a much better position than mine, definitely could probably look at it, but not for me. And I think you have better things you want to do, like getting rookies off the field. So he can get my negative three this week. Hopefully, I can send a bit of a rocket so he can perform well when he gets going again after his bye. But quickly reviewing my VCCs and my trades from last week. So I did end up going with the Bailey Smith as my VC, which I was happy with on the Thursday night. Like, I was like, oh, 126, I absolutely locked that in. It was not hugely unique. Like, I think 15% of coaches did the VC on him on Thursday night. So yeah, a lot of people would have locked that in. But it was disappointing to see that with my C option, which was Nick Martin, going 166, that did end up losing me 40 points over the weekend. That's a little bit disappointing, but it is what it is. You're locking in a 126 every day of the week, uh, especially with Nick Martin. Maybe if I had the likes of a Merritt, I would have probably gone there with the C, just being a bit more comfortable that he was more than likely going to go 130 plus. But Nick Martin could have been anywhere from 100 to 140. I didn't expect 166, and I wasn't really going to risk the C on him for the likes of, was it for like 18 points or whatever it would have been. So yeah, I took the VC, so I'm happy with that at the end of the day. So But yeah, of the 40 points would have been nice to take me over the 2,400 mark. My trades at the end of the day, I did stick with what I said during the week. So that was McRae and Hornberg to the Holmes and Warner, which did work out really well this week. I don't think any trades realistically would have worked out pretty badly. Looking at all the sort of options that we had available to us, all of them did particularly well. Like a lot of people traded in Nick Martin. Obviously, he was the highest scorer of the round. I guess the only downside is if you went with the cash grab of just going down to the likes of a Simpson, who unfortunately did go down with that AC joint injury to his shoulder in the early minutes of that game. Obviously, scoring a 0 points, not dropping coin, but not making any more coin, and now he's out for an extended period of time. So he's just become another dead dot realistically, and you're going to have to jump off him at a cheap price. So that's not worked out, unfortunately, for a lot of coaches. But yeah, I'm certainly happy with Holmes going 117 and Chad Warner going 112. It's definitely a huge benefit when both your trade-ins go 110 plus. So good to see them both, and both of them are huge targets this week. If you do not have them this week already, Holmes break even of 78 up against West Coast Eagles should go very, very nicely. This was the start of his good run, as I mentioned, so I'm happy I jumped on a week early. These next three look particularly juicy before his bye, and even after his bye, he's got the likes of Richmond, St Kilda, West North Melbourne as well, so and Essendon again. So actually a really good run throughout his entire rest of the season. So he's definitely one that you can jump on at this cheaper price if you don't have him already, or if you're not too heavy in round 16 defender midfielders. Definitely one I recommend. Probably my top 5 so far. Chad Warner, very similar. He's definitely one that has been performing extremely well over the last sort of 5 weeks. A couple 80s in there, but three 110 pluses. Got the Crows this week, so probably not expecting the biggest score of the lots. Just maybe gets a bit of attention here and there, but I think he goes well either way. Low break even, so he's only going to go up in coin. And then the Richmond matchup next week before his bye. And I did also speak about that bye being really valuable as a forward option in round 14. So definitely one that is worthwhile if you want to make your bye structure perfect. He's definitely one you can jump on there. So overall, really happy with the week. Now let's just quickly go through player by player. We just spoke about Harry Shears or Wanganimulera gets it done again with another 130 plus score. He is just been an amazing pick as a starting pick overall, and even picking him up, early on in the season. Yeah, he's been amazing and super consistent. So yeah, good to see he overcome those injury concerns from last week and just got it done with his halfback role there. Should go again good this week. I can't get that out properly. Against Melbourne, obviously they gave up huge points to halfbacks. It'll just be interesting whether they put a bit of attention into him. Maybe a Sparrow goes to him, playing that half forward role. We'll wait and see on that one. So yeah, I expect one of the Sinclair or Wanganimulera to go extremely well this week in that matchup. Holmes, I respect him. He's a huge target. Zach Reid, unfortunate to see him go down with an injury in that third quarter. That was hugely disappointing to see. He was on target for another massive 100 score there, which would have been very nice. But yeah, unfortunately went down with that hamstring injury and now has been ruled out for 3 to 4 weeks. So he is a must trade at that expensive price. It's not a huge issue at this stage for a lot of people. I think, a lot of people have positioned themselves with the buys that you should be able to field 18, if not ideally 21, 22 this week. Even with trading him, you shouldn't be restricted to just trading out these round 12 buy players to get your best, get 22 or 21 on field this week. So he'll be going for me this week. Roberts with a 94 was on track for a much bigger score. I think he was on 70 at half time. So very poor second half realistically when you think of that. Let me just double check that. Yeah, big 47-point quarter in the second quarter. Only had the 24 points after halftime. So that could have been a much bigger score. Just cannot seem to tick over 100 at all this year. Only had the 2 scores of 100 and a lot of 90s and 80s. So yeah, disappointing overall. Bias for the 70, definitely saved that late. I think he was only on like 45 with 10 minutes to go into that last sort of 10 minutes of the game. So yeah, put up 25 points in that final quarter, probably in the final 10 minutes. So yeah, 70 is a bit concerning, but yeah, like I said, I'm pretty consistent that I'll be holding him through to his buy now. So yeah, good to see that he didn't drop a huge amount in coin, and yeah, his break even's getting a bit lower. So again, I'm holding there. Trainer, I was very fortunate there that I was able to put him as the emergency and loop him. Just obviously with the concern uh, with him playing Essendon, I just thought might as well have the VC. I have the flexibility to do that, and that paid off pretty well with a 21. Obviously, just the concern realistically was that he was a sub last week, so obviously that meant he was out of favour at the side. So I thought that was a potential for him to be subbed again, but realistically, it was just the role that he was playing. He was playing as a half forward option up there. Only put 21 points. He was on 15 at quarter time, so only put up 6 points in the remaining 3 quarters, which is hugely disappointing. Killed a lot of his cash generation and even dropped 26k, so that's disappointing overall. So here's probably another forced trade that I want to get out this week, just so he doesn't lose money. Whether he gets dropped or not will be to be seen. So it may mean he may not be a forced trade, but at the end of the day, he's a red. If he's a red dot, he's got a huge amount of coin in his head, so it's probably one that goes anyway. Obviously, had Coleman there on the bench. He hopefully comes back this week and provides a bit of a score there. Midfielders all went pretty well. Dawson was definitely, I think it was number 2 on my captain's list with a 139. Could have been bigger. Got a bit rested in that final quarter. So not too bad. He missed a fair few goals with 2 goals, 3 behinds. Dunkley again, disappointing. He's now averaging below 100 since entering my team 3 weeks ago. So that's a bit frustrating for a player I paid so much for. I guess it just goes to show that, again, target the value where you can. But I guess when the other option I was looking at was a Tom Green, he hasn't really performed well either. So you take what you can get. Dunkley's still performing okay. Rosie did well again, just a low ton as you expected, and has now got defender status, so that is nice to be able to flick him back at some stage. Nick Dacos returned to form with a 129 in that pretty big thrashing against North Melbourne there. Racked up in the final quarter there. So yeah, good to see him. Levi Ashcroft got it done again with an 89. Just consistent back-to-back 80s, and obviously from that 115 is just super consistent. One I'll be holding through to his buy, and potentially even longer if he can continue to put up these big scores. Already spoke about Ned Long. Lindsay came through when I needed him the most with a 79. Finally got on the right end of that one in a very good performance. He's starting to find his good performances again. So again, he'll probably be on my field this week, particularly against the likes of St Kilda. Should have a very nice matchup there for a halfback winger type. I finally got on the right end of a rookie roulette sort of option. I obviously had Trainer as the loop, so then I was able to flick Max Holmes back, and then that meant I could field the likes of Moraes or Boxall. But once I saw that Moraes wasn't the sub, I just put him on just because I was concerned that Boxall was the sub. That did end up coming true, so I got on the right end of that one. So a 67 for Moraes was definitely a welcoming sight, and potentially means that I'm going to hold him this week, hoping that he stays on field and provides a fieldable score throughout the buys, assuming he can hold his position. Whether that happens or not is to be seen, but he's got a lower break even now, so he's not one I absolutely mean to trade out. If I was struggling for numbers, then yes, I probably could, but I'm not in that position to be struggling for numbers, I don't think, this week. Just the way I've structured my buys. Max just gets it done again, 140 in a tougher matchup against Grundy. Both Ruckman scored amazingly well with a high contest sort of game style. Put up 9 tackles, which is very unmax score, and is a huge wake up call to see that he can be able to do that numbers. Yeah, I think it was just a grudge match, obviously, against the likes of Brodie Grundy. They just love to go at each other, obviously ex teammates. So yeah, I think we're not always going to see those numbers every week, but yeah, it was good to see that he could definitely do those numbers, and yeah, put up a huge score, and he's just ticking along. Look at that last 2 months of footy. Unbelievable. Deserves to be the number 1 player in the competition. He is number 2 at the moment, but he deserves number 1. Yeah, he is the most expensive player in the competition. Harry Boyd as their captain did very well. Good to see him not be the emergency and have the safety of the captaincy there for once. But yeah, Tristan Cherry, disappointing. He was the only captain option in my top five that did go sub 100, as I always have someone like that. So yeah, disappointing week. He will return into form though. He will be a huge captain option coming back into West Coast in round 13 though, so no concerns for me there. Spoke about Bailey Smith. He just did well in that. He just does well every single week. I think he's a captain option every single week, even this week against the likes of Eagles. So consider that one if you will. But there is obviously the injury concern that he had with that shin. Apparently got it injected 4 times at half time. But yeah, I think he pulls up well this week. Obviously, he has a 10-day break. Played Thursday and doesn't play until Sunday night. So got a huge break. I think he'll get up for that game. So no concerns there for me. Even if he doesn't play, it's just a hold with best 18 anyways. You can get away with it. And he's obviously the best forward in the game so far. So there's no point trading him out just for a potential 1 week, unless they come out with that he's out for an extended period of time, which we know Geelong, they'll never say that. So it would take a braver coach than me to jump off at this injury scare. So I wouldn't be doing it. Nick Martin, if you don't have him, is still an option you can jump on with obviously his lower price tag and the low break even. I showed you he has a fairly good run through to his buy. So yeah, definitely worthwhile jumping on if you don't have him. But his teammate and Zach Merritt is definitely probably number one, if not number two. Obviously, with that lower price tag of just over $1 million, and obviously a huge score with a 149 on the weekend. Pretty much hit his break even, only dropped the 1K, so that's why it was worthwhile jumping on him last week to get that pop score, which unfortunately I could not, but I'm still happy at the end of the day with my trade-ins. But continuing on here, Rankin was disappointing in a fairly good matchup, obviously against West Coast Eagles. Just didn't get amongst the absolute fest there, with a lot of players went over the likes of 100. So yeah, disappointing from him, and starting to drop some CBAs as well. So maybe that's just a bit of management. Yeah, no concerns. Not worth jumping off. Just yeah, is something to monitor throughout the season. We already spoke with Chad Warner. Merrick probably could have got my -3, honestly. I think he was actually my lowest score on field, realistically. Yeah, by far was my lowest score on field. So that was a little disappointing. Obviously, has had a pretty good month of footy. He is potentially one that I could trade out this week if I was super concerned, but I just think he got a bit unlucky. 3 free kicks against, was having to play a bit more accountable. Didn't take as many kick-ins because he got caught on the like of he got caught on the bench when they got those behind. So I think this week he goes a bit better against the Cats. So I think I'll hold him for 1 week. If he goes poor this week, then I'll probably trade him out next week after that. So we'll see how that goes. Break even to 93. I don't think he'll drop a huge amount in cash anyways. Definitely worthwhile having another crack. And then Caleb Daniels probably the talk of the town with his 94, returning into a bit of form with his 30 disposals, 4 marks and 1 tackle. It really just raises some eyebrows whether he is an absolute lock of a trade out. He was in my plans, but I'm starting to question whether he is someone that needs to go or not now. So that is my team review and all the players that I have on my team, besides a few here and there. But now let's quickly return my attention to what my trade plans are this week. These are just indicative only so now, but I think one that is definitely locked in is the likes of Zach Reed to Angus Clark. Obviously, Angus Clark is the biggest lock that you can probably lock into your trade targets this week with his massive 98s on the weekend in his debut game. Massive break even of -23, so he's going to go up in cash no matter what he scores, even though I probably expect him to score a 30 this week. He's not going to kick 3 goals every single game of his life, especially obviously playing against Richmond. Comes up against much tougher Brisbane Lions this week at the Gabba, so yeah, I don't think he'll continue to score well, but he's going to make some decent coin over the next couple of weeks anyway, so easy one to jump on as a downgrade target. I then have jumped off the likes of Luke Trainer to go to the Sinclair. I said last week Sinclair's probably my target this week. Just to fix up my buy structure, only having Nasai, Wangani, Malura in round 13, whereas a lot of people have a Brayshaw, if not a Sinclair as well. So I'm just a bit light in that zone, so I want to pick him up this week. Also, probably 50k underpriced, going pretty well in these last two, if not three, and again, very good matchup this week. So yeah, I think he's one to jump on, probably in my top five as well. And then I've got this extra trade that I can do a couple things with. It's whether I jump off the likes of a red dot, uh, in a obviously a Connor Stone in this scenario, and then potentially going to a mid pricer and I think an Angus Sheldrick. Now Sheldrick, I think is a pretty decent option. Obviously going back to back 80s. There's obviously the concern of him being sub. He's been subbed what 5 games in the season so far. Sorry, six games of the season so far. Uh, and obviously he'd come into the side in the last two. But I think with the likes of Callum Mills potentially being suspended for the next couple, is definitely worth a punt. Jumping on him for a bit of cash generation, break even of 11. Having a decent amount of CBAs. I think he was on, if I show you here, had just under 50%, 37% this week, had the 52 last week. So yeah, definitely worth it. We know he can score. We've seen this in the past. He just needs to stay out of the sub vest. So he's done that in the last couple of weeks, and I think he's done fairly decently. Obviously, fantasy wise, he's done great. So if I can just get a couple of those scores in the next couple of weeks, obviously against the likes of the Crows and then Richmond Tigers, obviously super easy matchup. That should go well for him. Then he could potentially be a trader at that buy. If not, I could even hold him through. Not the greatest matchups after, but just through the buys, you can hide behind the best 18s. If he does potentially drop a poor score, or even if he is subbed, then you hope that his break even is low enough that it's not going to hurt his cash generation. So just thinking of it as a bit of a unique sort of cash generation option at his low break even. There is the other alternative of a Kane McAuliffe, which I know a lot of people are looking at as well this week, as a slightly bit more of an elevated price tag of 521k, break even of 3. I would say his job security is probably better, just the fact that he hasn't been the sub all year. He's come in for the last 3 games, although there have been fairly easy matchups, and scored particularly well, besides the one against West Coast Eagles. Does come up against a couple of tougher games, I will say, but obviously lower break even. I'll say his job security is a bit better, but I do have concerns with the likes of a Prestia is potentially back this week. He obviously played in the VFL last week, but I do think they'll be pretty cautious with him, obviously with a lot of his soft tissue injuries. So it's shaky either way. Both come with risks, so it's hard to split him. It's just really who your preferences are. Both have the same buy, so either way you only have them for 2 weeks, and then potentially they are a trade out. If not, you want to hold them through for the buys. The other one that a lot of people are looking at this week is Sam Berry. Obviously got his first full game for a while, been subbed for the last 4 games. Played his first full game and put up a massive 123 with a lot of tackles, as we know what he can do. I will say, obviously, the easiest matchup against West Coast Eagles at home. This one I'm probably not a huge in favour of. I don't see him being in the team full time. I think he goes back to being the sub fairly quickly. With Tex coming back next week, I think they have the midfield depth to I think Tex gets included, then obviously Rankin probably goes back into the midfield a little bit more, so that probably drops Berry. So this is probably one that I wouldn't jump on, just with him being probably a bit more of a risk as a sub. So not a huge fan of this one, but obviously there's a huge amount of value there. Overall, there's a couple other mid prices as well, but I think that covers off the main 3 that I want to talk about there. So I have jumped on Angus Sheldrick at this stage, just as a bit of a mid-pricer. So essentially going 3 rookies up to a premium and a mid-pricer, and then obviously jumping on the rookie as well. So this is probably what I recommend for most coaches in this scenario, is if you can jump off three rookies, particularly if they're red dots, like obviously Zach Reed is, Stone is, and potentially Luke Trainer, all have pretty good money on their head, and then you can get the upgrades on the other side. That's ideally what you can do. The only other thing is if you're struggling for numbers this week, particularly, like if you're not able to field 18 particularly this week, then you need to trade out these round 12 buy players. So I'm probably better off bringing up the buy detector. So you can see all my buy players this round are the likes of Harry Sheasel, Rosie, Cherry, and Daniel as the premiums, and then obviously got a couple rookies in Moraes and Sullivan. So only the 6 players this week. I'm able to put them all on the bench, and then I'm able to have all 21. I'll say 21 because Harry Boyd is definitely not going to be playing unless some miracle happens somehow. So I have 21 players playing this week. I would prefer to have the likes of Clark on field over the likes of Boxall, but wait, I can actually do that. Never mind. I'm just a bit of a retard. There we go. So, yeah, so I'm able to field the likes of a Clark over the likes of a Boxall, who is obviously a sub risk. Then I'm having 21 players on field this week, and maximizing my available scoring ability this week, where I probably have the likes of, let's count them here. So let's just count how many players I expect to get 100 or the hundreds thereabouts. So Wanganeen Malura, Roberts, Sinclair, Dawson, Dunkley, Dacos, Holmes, Gorn, Bailey Smith, Martin, Warner, Rankin. So that's 12 premiums. And then I've got the likes of Marek, Ashcroft, Long. I'll go Sheldrick in there as well. And then obviously the likes of Bice and Coleman. So that's another 6 as well. So that's already my 18 accounted for, right? So I'm not even having to look at the likes of a Clark, a Lindsay, or a Cleary essentially as my final score on field. So I have the flexibility there that I expect that my best 18 is going to be full of mid prices and premiums that all have the capacity to have a ceiling score this week. So that's going to maximize my scoring potential this week. With obviously, if anything goes wrong, any of these have a poor scores like a Marek did this week, then I have the fallback option of, okay, hopefully Lindsay can put up a decent 70 that can be a fallback option. So hopefully can maximize my scores this week. Obviously, I would love if I could field 22, but unfortunately can't with not having any ruck relief there. So I think this is what you should be aiming for if you can. Obviously, relying on 1 or 2 rookies isn't the end of the world. We've got some pretty good rookies on field that have the capacity to put up some decent scores, like a Cleary. He's shown he can go 80s previously. Hasn't hit those in recent times, so he's definitely one that if you want to trade him out, he's definitely worthwhile. For me, I'm just happy to more jump off of a red dot in a Connor Stone, just so that I'm closer to having 30 green dots throughout the buys, just looking in the future, because I may not need that green dot this week, but I probably need it in the coming weeks in round 14 and 15 and probably round 16 when the time comes. So yeah, it's really just trying to plan and look at what your team's looking like for the following weeks. So that is pretty much this video done. Yeah, hopefully you got something out of this. I guess I showed you my trade plans already, but yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying the videos, and I'll hopefully see you for trade mode on Wednesday. Please leave a like, subscribe, do all those good things. Yeah, and I'll catch you guys on Wednesday for trade mode. Cheers, guys. Bye.
All the pain.